Hi, my name is Lona Muthania Uchido, and I'm making it one of my life's mission to demystify the speech therapy field and to empower more parents on what they can start to do in order to optimize their child's communication outcomes. So whether you want your child to talk more or talk better, learn better, and overall optimize their potential. So stay tuned and feel free to send in any topics on speech and language development you'd like for me to tackle. Welcome to today's My Opinion About series. So in today's series, I'll be tackling 4 signs that your child may need speech therapy, or at the very least need to be evaluated by a speech therapist, as in it will not be a bad idea. Now, if you consider that the scope of speech therapists is quite wide, your child then may need to see a speech therapist for a variety of reasons. So like if they're experiencing speech difficulties or language difficulties or reading difficulties or fluency disorders like stammering or auditory processing difficulties, maybe they're hearing impaired or they're having difficulty processing what they hear. They can hear, they don't have a problem, but probably having difficulty processing what they hear, which can only really be diagnosed by a speech therapist or an audiologist if they're having swallowing difficulties or if they're having voice disorders. So these difficulties, you can't really predict a reading disorder, for example. You can't really predict a voice disorder. It can happen as the child matures, but there are some other difficulties that you can almost predict might necessitate that you have your child evaluated or assessed by a speech therapist. And these can happen from birth. So there could be red flags or telltale signs of any developmental issues or acquired issues that could happen from birth. So research advocates for early intervention, which is remediating any difficulties as soon as they appear, and preferably when the child is 3 years and below. Now, I would like to emphasize that again. So preferably when a child is 3 years and below, or at the earliest discovery of an issue, because an issue could be discovered at age 4. You can't go back to age 3, but you can start there. So the following 4 signs can be sure red flags that your child may need to see a speech therapist or have speech therapy sessions. So number 1, birth trauma. Birth trauma is a general term describing any injury to a newborn that is as a result of the birth process. Now, I have to say that in Kenya particularly, birth trauma is quite prevalent. There's a number of children whose issues or whose communication disorders or developmental issues were as a result of birth trauma. So what is birth trauma? Birth trauma could include eventualities of a prolonged or obstructed labor, premature birth, fetal distress in utero, or as a result of the birthing process. So a child's been born and you're told they had fetal distress. So a few other things can determine whether they would perhaps might struggle with some things. A child's Apgar score at 5 minutes is the first indication of the physical condition of your baby. The Apgar score stands for appearance, pulse, grimace, activity, and respiration. So it's a score out of a possible 10 in which 5 things are measured, with each being scored on a scale of 0 to 2. So therefore giving a possible score of 10. The Apgar score is given at 1 minute of life. So as soon as the baby is born, after 1 minute, they're given a score out of 10, and then again after 5 minutes. A score of 7, for example, and below at the 5th minute is usually considered low, but a low score at 1 minute, say a low score of 7 at 1 minute and above 7, so an improved score of above 7 at 5 minutes should be fine if the doctors are not concerned with your child's physical status. And the second sign that your child may need to see a speech therapist is if they are displaying delayed motorical and speech milestones. So what are motorical milestones we're referring to? So anything to do with the big muscles or the gross motor skills, like holding the neck and independently sitting and walking. If these are not met at the expected times, then they may be red flags to other delays including communication. So if your child has not held up their neck by the time they're 6 weeks, they haven't sat independently between about 5 and 7 or 8 months, if they haven't walked between 9 and 14 months or 1 year, 2 months, then this could be an indication that they might experience a delay further, down. Please let me know in the comments below what you think the answer to this question is. How many words should your 2-year-old have? So option A, 20 to 50 words. Option B, 50 to 100 words. Option C, 200 to 300 words. How many words do you think a 24-month-old or your 2-year-old should have at 2 years? So let me know, please. I'm just curious, but I will tell you. So some of the other red flags or some of the other milestones that we expect of children are that serve as a red flag to a communication disorder are if they're not babbling by the time they're 9 months. So babbling is when they go ba ba ta ta da da, which is not to be confused with cooing. Cooing is what babies do from when they're born. They make these guttural sounds in the throat. They're mostly just vowel-like and oh. But then at about 4 months, they start to produce a string of sophisticated combinations of consonants and vowels. So that's the babbling, ba ba da da mama. So if your child hasn't babbled by 9 months, it is a sure red flag for possibility of an issue. If your child doesn't have their first words by the time they're 15 months, so whether it's mama or dada or wawa or whatever, if they are producing or they have less than 20 words by 18 months, if they have less than 100 words by 2 years, and also if they're not combining words by the time they're 3 years, or difficult to understand by 4 years of age, these are all red flags for the presence of a condition, a communication disorder that warrants, being seen by a speech therapist. So the third sign that your child may need to have speech therapy or see a speech therapist is if they are difficult to engage. So difficult to engage just simply means they don't respond when they are called. They don't seem to, crave social interaction. They are probably very good company to themselves, so parents will often come and say to me, my child just prefers their own company. So they're just difficult to engage. Chances are that they do have a social communication, difficulty, and they would need to see a speech therapist for that. And fourth sign that your child would benefit from speech therapy services is if you as their parent is feeling concerned. Now, this is really taken for granted, but I know of all the cases that I have encountered of children that have delays, the parents will say they felt it. So even if, say, they delayed seeking the services or my services or speech therapy services, they say they had initially noted it at 2 years, they had initially probably noted it at 18 months, but they went to the doctor and the doctor said to them, don't you worry, your child will be fine, don't compare your child to other children, all children develop at different times, which, yes, very correct, but if you have a gut feeling that it's not all right, it doesn't feel right to you, then there's no harm, in seeking out an evaluation by a speech therapist. And I say to parents, the worst that would come out of an evaluation is that you probably waste your money, if you're paying out of pocket for this service. But that is a much smaller loss than, the time that you can't recover by, deciding, let me just wait and see. And then at 5 years or at 4 years, you're like, oh, it's definitely an issue now, because they would not then have the advantage of early intervention. So speech therapy would be most effective to children under 3 years if the condition was there from the beginning. So I hope that's made it clear what the 4 signs are from a very early on stage or time in your child's life that would give you an indication as to whether your child would benefit from speech therapy. So I thank you so much. as always, for tuning in. Please do check out some of our other videos in this series if this video has brought up anything that you want to explore further. And if you can leave a comment, I'll definitely appreciate that. And if you liked this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell, because each time I publish, you'll be notified that there's a new video. So thank you so much.